Hello. So today we're going to talk about civics. Now, whenever we're looking at civics and economics, there are three components of it. We have civics, we have PFL, and we have economics. So I'm going to be talking rather quickly. So if at any point you need to take time to pause the video and go back, feel free. As well as I hope that you're taking good notes on what we're talking about. So the very first thing we're going to look at is civics, and we have to ask ourselves, what is civics exactly? Civics is the study of citizenship in government. So it's not just talking about the three branches of government, but rather we are also going to be looking at how can we as Americans be better citizens and help our government be more stable. Government is a huge part of what we're going to be talking about this semester. So it's one of those things that I hope you are super comfortable, and if you're not, we're going to get you there. So when you think of government, what exactly comes to mind? Typically, I will hear from students that they think government is, those presidents and that we have and laws, and that's pretty much it. But government is involved in a huge, huge chunk of our life. From everything from roads to running water to making sure that sodas that we drink are regulated and that they don't have, disgusting things in them. Government is very, very broad in all the things. So we get to talk about that kind of stuff. So the official definition of government would be the ruling authority with the power to make and enforce laws. Now, while this is a simple definition, we do need to examine the difference between the words power and authority. So let's make a little side note about what is the true difference between these. Power is when you have the ability to influence others. So if you thought for just a second, say somebody walked up to you and they said, "Oh, I love the shirt that you have on." Is that power or is that authority? Are they going to be able to influence you to wear that shirt again, or are you going to say, "I'm never going to wear that again"? People who have power over you are typically people who can't enforce a consequence, really. So celebrities, things that celebrities do or say, or what they like, and that influences us, as well as your peers. Your friends have power over you. Athletes do as well. Authority would be the right to give an order and to expect someone to obey a demand. So whenever we're looking at authority, this is typically, it would be authority figures, of course. And those would exist from, of course, government officials to police officers, your parents, school officials. These are the people who expect you to obey requests that they may have, and there's going to be a consequence. Now, different people, who is going to have influence over me? So while my children could try to influence me to, buy them a candy bar at the store, they might have power over me. Can they demand that I buy one? And if I don't, there's a consequence. However, everybody has different people who have power and authority over them. So what I would like for you to do is to come up with an example on your own of what would be an example of power, who has power over you, and who has authority over you. Now, is it possible to have power over someone but not have authority? Or vice versa? Could they have authority over you but really don't influence you to do something? So for example, say I saw you in the hallway and you had a hat on at school. Now, hats are not allowed to be worn in our school system. So if I said you need to take your hat off, is that power or is that authority? Now, what if I saw you in Target and you had a hat on? Could I tell you to take your hat off in Target? Well, of course I could tell you to take your hat off in Target, but is there a consequence versus in the school versus in Target? So in Target, I could maybe influence you. I could try to have power over you by saying something along the lines of, "What, we do not wear hats in the building," or gentlemen always take their hats off, or something. But I really can't do anything about it because there's not a law that says you can't wear hats in buildings around town. So this is one of those things that just because you have power doesn't necessarily mean you have authority, and vice versa in every spot, in every location. Now, whenever we talk about what does the government do, I would like for you to kind of come up with a list of what does the government do for you. So there could be several things. I mean, starting out with, hopefully by this point you've brushed your teeth. And when we talk about brushing your teeth, how did the water get in your house? Who made sure that that water was clean enough for you to ingest? The toothbrush and the toothpaste. Who made sure that they have proper nutritional value, fluoride, in them, and they're not going to hurt you, and they're also going to do what the company said that they're going to do. Who made sure that the pipes are not lined with lead? And then when the water leaves your house, where does it go? Who cleans it so that it can come back to your house? Everything when it comes from food to transportation to schools, the government is involved in so many things. However, we can categorize these and break them down into about 4 different things. So the first thing is that the government provides security. Now, an obvious one, we would think the military, but then the government is also responsible for providing safe roads and making sure that people follow the rules. If someone breaks into my house, is there anybody who would help me be able to get justice for the situation? The providing services, making sure that there is, if I need someone to come help me because my child has fallen and I need someone, we can call an ambulance service. And the government does get involved to make sure that those are regulated properly, which means we're talking about inspections on cars, or if we're talking about airplanes. Food services, like free and reduced lunch in school cafeterias, schools. If my house is on fire, all of those would be services. They also provide order. So what happens if there's a hurricane that's coming to hit our state? The government is going to not only have the news and broadcasting to make sure everybody is notified about what's going on, but then that there is also what happens if I don't live in a safe house or if I'm in a flood area. The government is going to provide a place for people to go. Now, what happens after that? The government provides order to help people get back on their feet. They also provide day-to-day order, stoplights and street sides, as well as providing public policy. Now let's zoom in right here, and what exactly is public policy? The definition is on the screen, and it says that public policy would be the goals for the community. So goals for the community are going to consist of things like, say, a particular person wants to have universal health care. Then when they ran for office, they would say, if you elect me, I am going to try to get some universal health care for you. Versus somebody else might say, no, I don't really think that's important. And they might fight for, say, the right to bear arms, or somebody else might fight for the clean environment. So that when we talk about different goals, where do we want to go with our laws? Now, laws look different in different places, which is why it's important that we know the different types of government. So 1 through 4 are pretty simple. Democracy is a government run by the people, and there's 2 different types. So a direct democracy would be, again, the word democracy, that means a government run by the people, but direct means every single person has the right to participate. A representative democracy is going to be one in which we elect representatives. Now, a monarchy, hopefully you remember these from world history, but a monarchy is when you have a king or queen running the government. There's 2 different types of those. An absolute monarchy is when you have a king or queen and they have complete and total control over everything. A constitutional monarchy is when you're going to have a king or queen still, but they're going to be limited and they're not by a constitution, and they're not going to be able to do everything that they want to do. A theocracy is when you have a government that is run by religion, and federalism is when the state and the federal government share powers. Now, in the United States, we have a representative democracy, but we also use a lot of federalism, and so we are going to be talking about these two a lot more. Now, there are, of course, more types of government, and here are some other ones. There is a dictatorship and totalitarianism. Now, these two are very similar to each other. Both of them usually have a leader who has complete and total control over an area. Now, that's when you have total control, that's totalitarianism, and they usually use force to get what they want. A dictatorship uses force to get what they want, but then they don't control everything. Aristocracy is when you have a government that is run by the rich, by the wealthy. Oligarchy is a government that is run by the few. Oligarchies are typically not very successful because if you have three guys who are running the government, eventually somebody is going to get a little feisty, and next thing you know, it's not a few people, but rather one. And so we're talking about one. Anarchy is when you have nothing but chaos. So there's no rules, there's no order, there's no public policy. People just do whatever they want to do. And then the last one down there would be a confederacy. A confederacy is a government in which you have states having the bulk of the power. You've probably heard of one of those before. Now, whenever we look at the different types of government, of course you have to know what type of government that we have. And we have a representative democracy. And so what that means is that we have picked representatives to make decisions for us. If you'd like to make a small note, hopefully you know who that guy is right there. This guy right here, his name is Richard Burr, and he is a Republican that represents North Carolina in the U.S. Senate. This guy right here, his name is Tom Tillis, Thom. It's got a little bit of an odd spelling. And he is also a senator for the United States government, and he represents North Carolina. So both of these guys have the same job, essentially. And then this guy right here, his name is Walter B. Jones, and he is a U.S. House of Representative member that the people from North Carolina, particularly in the Pitt County area, have elected. Now, Walter B. Jones is from Farmville, whereas these two guys, one is from Greensboro and the other one is from Winston-Salem, so they're from a little bit of a further west of us. But Walter B. Jones is from an area that's really close to us. And so while Barack Obama is in charge of representing the entire country, and now Donald Trump is in charge of representing the entire country, all 50 states, Walter B. Jones is supposed to represent Farmville. Now, when not just Farmville, but he's supposed to represent his district that elected him. So that's going to be over here in this area. However, Walter B. Jones, just like Tom Tillis and Richard Burr, they're going to be working in Washington, D.C. So that's Washington, D.C., that's the District of Columbia, just in case you don't know. And Washington, D.C. is going to be the kind of the headstone, the headquarters for making sure that all 50 states are being taken care of. So those three representatives that we just talked about, these three guys, are part of 535 people who go to Congress, and they're responsible for taking care of the whole country. Now, why am I talking about them more than this guy or Donald Trump? Is because in a representative democracy, we have picked these people to make our laws. And so we get to talk even more about that very, very soon.